Wow, welcome to the Get Fit with Jodelle podcast. I am, as usual, Jodelle, and my next guest is back for a second time. I love to have guests come back on, especially those who are passionate about educating you guys, because you know that I'd only bring on people who are purpose-driven, who want to tell the truth, who want to inform the public of truths and not just hearsay. And so Matt Landman is one of those guys. He's an activist, a truth seeker, an educator. He's produced a documentary that I love called Frankenskies. And if you haven't watched that yet, it's a must, and the link will be in the show notes. So it's like required watching before you listen to this, right? And it's free, so there's nothing wrong with that too. And Matt is now leading a movement to protect humanity from harmful electromagnetic frequency, which you guys know I'm very passionate about. And he's very much into helping people. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to give you real strategies and solutions for living in this modern world, but maybe not being suffering through it and not being so affected by it. So, you know, people are suffering with many illnesses, diseases, and just basically feeling unwell in today's world. And as a nutritionist, I'll tell you that only about 20% of it actually has to do with our food. We have bigger problems than just poor food quality and GMOs. We've got radio wave sickness and EHS. We've got geoengineering or weather modification and high amounts of toxic chemicals that we're exposed to daily, as well as mass amounts of social media stress and pressure to do more and be more in this society. So I want to take the time to talk to Matt today about what we can do to calm down, to focus more on the more important things, and to mitigate the effects of 5G and of the toxins we're exposed to, so that we can live in the modern world, but like I said, not be suffering through it. So Matt, welcome back. And it's always, always, always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you very much for having me on a second time. And it's really nice to connect with you as well. And lovely introduction. And to quickly answer your question about how we can slow down and, you know, protect ourselves essentially by not being so stressed, is really getting to know yourself. So for instance, I realized that drinking coffee is not for me. And also I realized that I need nature and water is really beneficial for me. And there's a lot of things that it seems like common sense that I should have known before the age of 42, but I never really looked myself in the mirror. And getting to know yourself is so important. Like maybe you need naps. Maybe you need alone time and you didn't even realize it because you're a mom and you never get it, you know? Maybe you're allergic to bread. Because I learned that about myself recently too. And I'm like, wait, I was eating that the whole time and now I can't even really do it. And a lot of people listening be like, what? How can you not? But it turns into refining your lifestyle to show up for yourself so that you can show up for the world, show up for others, and then again, show up for yourself more and find that balance. Yeah.
I'm so glad you opened up with that, because that is so imperative of what you just said. Is in order to get better, we have to know ourselves. We have to understand our bodies. We have to understand if we're doing something that doesn't resonate with us, because we are bio individuals. So something that doesn't work for one person might work for another, and vice versa. So it's like, to understand yourself is, that's step number one. And to also pay attention about, how am I being affected by my environment in so many ways? And so that's what I want to dive into today, and especially diving in first to like electromagnetic frequency and how it's affecting us. Because there's so many people that I'm like at nauseum talking about this too, but they're like, no, it doesn't affect me. I'm like, how do you know? Like, what if your anxiety is from these exposures to 5G and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth? What if your headaches that you always get are in your car because of the Bluetooth that's in your car? What if your sleep issues are because the Wi-Fi router is right next to your bed, you know? And all of these things are, people don't know. And so that's why I'm like, I'm just going to have Matt talk about it, because they're hearing me say it, but they need an expert, somebody who has studied this, who has researched it, and who knows that there's more to this EMF than we're giving it credit for. Yeah.
So I shake my head because I have so many stories and I'm trying to just not tell all of them because you know how that goes. And I've got customers all the time, like they don't even want to accept that even though they're customers. So they've taken that leap and they've spent the money to get the silver clothing or whatever it may be. They still don't want to admit that their phone is giving off something bad that could harm them, or, it's called radiation, folks. We can give it a different word if you want. Let's call it EMF. I took that word EMF to Asia when I was trying to figure this out at first, and they had no idea what I was talking about. They call it radiation, just like radiation off of a nuclear power plant.
Right.
Because they give it one word. We sugarcoat it over here. And I love that you resonated with what I said, because some people will spend maybe an hour. Okay, for instance, imagine that you work underneath a cell tower from 9 to 5, and you go home and then you can't sleep, or you're edgy, or you're whatever it may be. There's some brain fog, whatever it may be. I have a woman who, she asked me, she wanted to pay me for an EMF analysis. I came over to her house and we started, downstairs, and I'm looking at the Roku thing on her everything. I'm doing all this stuff. And we have all this nice intellectual conversation. We go up to her bedroom, and God bless her, the Wi-Fi router is right next to her bed. Like, I'm talking 3 feet. And I'm showing her, look, distance is your friend, and you don't have distance. And this thing is off the charts. Like, and she got it because downstairs it was like a 1, and upstairs it's a 60. And she's like, what, 60 times that? And I'm like, yes. Because the meter, the EMF meter, it helps so much because it shows people the thing that's invisible.
Right.
And how does your phone download videos and do these things? It's not magic. It is connecting and transferring globs of data, information, things that disrupt your cells. And if you could see it with your eyes, you'd be like, oh, I'm going to go in the other room while this downloads. You know what I mean? If you could see it with your eyes, and so my EMF meter, God bless it, it has a sound thing on it too. And you can hear like the different waves and stuff. And so people see the red, green light and the numbers. So it's colors, numbers, and sound. And it's really impactful. I've had people be like, oh, I've got to take this and show my other family members. And this woman, she says, okay, I'm going to, at least move the Wi-Fi router into the other room, not have it in my sleeping environment. And I'm like, look, you don't have to because everyone is afraid of what you're going to say. You're going to shame them because they're not knowledgeable. No, look, I slept with a Wi-Fi router in my bedroom growing up. I didn't know either. Okay?
Under my bed. When I was infertile, it was under my bed.
Okay. But we can grow, and knowledge is power. Yeah. And sorry, the company that's putting it in your bedroom is not going to say, maybe this has negative side effects, but it does. And, some people, they can feel it in their hand, and then they get my texting gloves or whatever, or whatever it may be, and they see that there's a difference because you can put that silver barrier in between or whatever. I'm not trying to sell that. I'm just saying that there's so many instances where people don't realize it, and then they grasp it finally, like, oh, well, I do get heart palpitations when I am underneath that cell tower, or whatever it may be. Some people don't get it, and all they need is that little kind of push. Like, my story is I was a fatty. I grew up in Northern Virginia, and I worked with a bunch of El Salvadorians, and they asked me in broken English when the baby would be due, because I had a beer belly because I drank so much and I was so unhealthy, and I had rabid heartburn, really bad heartburn from drinking beer and smoking menthol cigarettes, and being, like 18, 19, 20 and stuff like that. This is a long time ago now. But I started to slowly learn myself. Oh, if I don't eat the greasy bacon, I don't get the heartburn, right? And I started to slowly but surely ask around about things. And someone said to me, a friend's sister, she said, well, I read ingredients. And if I can't read it, I don't eat it. And I'm like, ingredients? I didn't know there was ingredients. I had graduated from Virginia Tech, okay? And I had all this debt. I had a bachelor's of science in marketing management, and I could be running your business.
Oh
I
my
didn't know
goodness.
there's ingredients on the back of effing food. My parents never told me, like, sorry, like, I didn't know. I mean, I didn't really come from a processed environment necessarily world. I mean, still, we did have soda a little bit, but Sprite, not Coke. But anyways, it doesn't even matter. The point being, all I needed was that little nudge.
Yeah.
Okay. I started reading the ingredients. I started realizing, oh, that makes me feel this way. I started really tuning into my body. And now I know if I eat certain oils, they're rancid and I get sick.
Yeah.
I do. I get sick that night. It's heartburn or indigestion or other things that we don't need to go into, but it's like I do respond. And it's because I've refined my body and whatnot. And some people respond and they don't even realize, like, oh, something got me sick. No, trace it back. Was it the chicken wings? Was it what it was fried in? Was it, don't just brush it off. Get in tune with your body and along as well as your kids. Like some people have different allergies and whatever it may be, but my point being is we all can play the part of giving that gentle nudge, and it can be, and it is EMF radiation, folks, because what's happening in our world is we're in a soup of it, and it's more and more, way more than it was last week, like way more than it was when we were kids, and our children and whatever, that's getting more and more all the time. And we have to see what that is, the blue light, the sleeplessness, a lot of these things like depression. Okay. Like if we look up teen suicide rates, and we're all responsible for this. This is like, it takes a village, everyone. Right. It's like, oh, I'm not a parent, or, oh, my kids are only 5. There's all these excuses. Okay. Yeah. It takes a village. Guess what? I'm not a parent. And I do the freaking work, okay, on educating and trying to raise the awareness and the best way I see fit, which is meeting them on their level. You can't come to your friends, family, and peers like a spaz. You know how to approach them and how to lay the information and plant the seeds with the grandmother, and differently with the coworker, and differently with the neighbor, and all that sort of stuff. But they all are walking around with cell phones in their back pocket, and those things are getting turned up, and now it's 5G, and people don't even understand what it is. 5G, those little phones are now little cell towers. It's not the same as 4G. It's not the same. Right. It's pushing all the signal all around. It's exponentially more. I can't even say like 100 times more radiation, because I've learned this. It's a new form of radiation. It's completely different. So yeah, it's like 100 times more radiation than 4G, sure, but it's not even the same. It's a different bandwidth, a different carrier wave. It's so small that it absorbs into stuff, including us. And really, if you knew the details and sat down and got yourself fully educated, not to be condescending, this is not, no ego. I'm throwing the ego out the window. Come on, people. I'm just meeting you with love for the win here. If you really got educated, fill the word educated with something else. If you got knowledgeable on this subject, you would not walk around with it in your pocket.
Absolutely.
You would limit it. You would be like, oh, I've had that in my pocket all day. I'm going to put that over there. You would know, if you could see the radiation, if you had the right eyes or wore the goggles, you would put that thing in the other room. I promise you. You would, because distance is your friend. Distance is your friend on these things, and people don't grasp that. And people are like, oh no, I'm in a soup of my Wi-Fi neighbors, this and that. No, those things are a block away. Just because you can maybe pick it up on your phone doesn't mean it's getting you. Okay. So there's these big differences and these big educational things. And one thing that I really want people to grasp is this A to B. Okay. Your Wi-Fi router or someone else's Wi-Fi router, let's just get, or the coffee shop's Wi-Fi router, whatever it is, that's A. And the device is B. Okay. So you're going to get your device. It's your phone, your dishwasher, your tablet, your child's tablet, your iPad, your child's iPad, your laptop in your lap. Okay. You can turn the Wi-Fi on and off. You have that option. It's the same with Bluetooth. It's A to B. You can turn this field on and off, but if it's connecting to the Wi-Fi router, say you're in your bedroom and the Wi-Fi router's in your basement and you're connected, then if you could see it, there'd be a big glowing ball of radiation around your device.
for sure.
And it's connecting all the way down to the other big glowing ball of radiation with light. It's like shooting light in between. If you're in between, it's not that big a deal. But if you're right next to the devices that are cranking out the connection, there's a connection between the two, A to B. I don't know how better to explain it.
That's perfect.
So there's a cell tower as well. So say there's a cell tower a block away.
Yeah.
Okay. People are hitting me up all the time with questions because they're not knowledgeable on the subject. And they think that I'm like so knowledgeable. I'm not an electrical engineer. I just have done a little bit of research on this stuff. And I know because I got myself an EMF meter and became an activist on the subject, you know, basically. Mm-hmm. The cell tower a block away from your house, it's not the end of the world. You know what's the end of the world? Your phone connecting to it all the time, A Correct. To B. So your phone is this big ball of radiation inviting that signal in, saying, here, come in here. Me. You could see it with the goggles, or if you could feel it like I can feel it, because I'm slightly sensitive now because of my life story. Mm-hmm. You know, that's how I got into it, is I got sensitive to it. And then I realized that it's a thing. You know, that's a lot of people's journey. They learn about something the hard way and they become a healer or whatever it may be. You know, that's life experience, you know. So if you just put your phone on airplane mode or turn your device's Wi-Fi off or unplug the Wi-Fi router, which is the A or the B, then you don't have this connection. You don't have this soup that you're in, and you can mitigate and you don't have it. You can like lessen it. So what I recommended to the woman the other day is I said, you know, you can put this Wi-Fi router in another room. Did you know you can put it on a timer? So at like midnight, it just turns off and it turns back on at 6 a.m. And then it's off when you're sleeping. People don't know these things. There's also adapters that you can get when you have Ethernet that you can make come out of your landlines. Right. And she's got landlines all up in her house and she didn't know that. There's little bits of education that make it really easy, way easier than you would imagine. Like one thing I want to say is I have everything you could imagine that's on the internet, from Telegram to BitChute to Facebook with 70,000 followers. And I do these things and I have an internet business and I have a big Instagram and I do internet like crazy. I don't expose myself to any wireless radiation unless I go to a coffee shop or I'm hanging out with a friend who pulls out their phone or something and I'm around it then. But in my world, in my day-to-day space, I do all this interneting. I don't do any radiation, zero. So other people can do this. You can mitigate. You don't have to be exposed to it. People are like, how could you possibly? I do it. You know, you can get a Garmin GPS in your car, and I've done the meter on that. Like that thing's not even putting off radiation. So you've got your little maps if that's what you're scared of, because people have all these fear things that pop up in their heads, you know? So that tangent was a bit long, but yeah, people, please recognize what your phone is and at least don't sleep with it. This is not a sales pitch. Put that phone on airplane mode. There's even on, like, I know on the iPhones now, there's another mode that someone just showed me, which is like privacy mode or something like that, which is even more than airplane mode, which other things get killed because there's other track things that are going on during airplane mode, I guess. And there's a deeper privacy thing on iPhones I've now seen, and that's interesting. Turn your Bluetooth off. If your phone is sitting there connecting to your Bluetooth all the time and you're not using it, then that's pointless A to B radiation. Same with the Wi-Fi. Also, the Bluetooth headphones, I'm just going to say this, and then you can ask me, we can talk more about other stuff.
You're reading my mind. Go for it.
These look at what I've got here. These are very old school. There's like foam and I love them and it gets the job done. These Bluetooth headphones that maybe look cool because they're stylish or something.
They don't.
I think they don't look cool.
I don't think they look
but thank you. And you're a nice, attractive woman. I'm just a dude, you know, like believe me, you all, there's attractive women out there that do not think it looks cool. It's not cool. It's not as cool as you think.
True. Yep.
And when you get the knowledge, which is these things interact with one another through your brain, they send signals through your brain, like zoop, 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 zoop.
Yeah.
Your brain is now like this interface for frequency being gone through. And it's really experimental, like who's going to get the brain tumors first and whatnot. And you don't want to be part of that experiment. I'm sorry, especially if you're a teenager and stuff. like be cool and don't have it. And there are cool kids that are adopting not like all of the tech, which is rad. I love that. But I will say that in the town that I live in Ashland, Oregon, which is on the Northern California, Oregon, Southern California border. It's a cool little college town. My basketball court that I go to all the time, in the past couple years, it's gone from, or the past 3 years, it's gone from like, I used to have to wait to play basketball. Now I'm the only one out there on the court. Usually I'm like alone, and I see kids out there on iPads, and they're in the, they're like under like the shade and the iPad. It's a beautiful day. And I like coerce kids, I get them to play with me and stuff. And I'd have games we play sometimes, but oftentimes I'm just alone on this basketball court that used to be packed, and it's only taken a few years. And I know what happened. People got locked down. The parents had no choice but to, well, no choice. A lot of parents felt like they had no choice but to put their kids in front of the screen and devices, which, you know, not everyone did that. Where I live, some families started cool farm community schools, and the kids did not get put on the devices. This is all excuses. Like, these devices didn't exist when I was growing up, and you know, I was outside learning about bugs and having fun and playing flashlight tag and all these things. I could talk about it forever. I grew up with lightning bugs and all these cool things. So anyways, I love nature, and that's probably one reason why I love to like fight for human, you know, what's good in the natural world and not this tech driven society, because of the upbringing that I had, because I have this reverence for it all. And it's easy to find because we're natural beings. We're beings of nature, you know, like this artificial, like become tech and metaverse and all that stuff. It's unnatural, and we're bound to reject it if we're just shown the light. And we can also talk about how the 15-minute cities and all that, that's not natural. And that's just a play too towards technology. But yeah, these headphones are not good for you all, people. And it's EMF radiation like right next to your head. Now, if you get a cell phone, and I know people trust the cell phone companies, that's great. Go look in the fine print. It says, don't hold it to your head. It says, we recommend you hold it not up to your head. Like it says like a centimeter or something is a safe distance. I don't know exactly which phone is what. Every phone has a SARS rating.
Right.
And that is how much radiation it puts off. And so each one will say what the best distance is. They don't want you holding it right to your ear. Now, where are those headphones? They're in your ear and they're emitting radiation, man. Like, let's have some common sense. You don't want that. That's like sticking your head inside a microwave.
Right.
You don't want to be doing that. And, you know, people long-term have brain fog and cognitive this and that and Alzheimer's and all this. And like, check this out. EMF fields make it so that your blood-brain barrier absorbs, like it gets more permeable. Okay. Navy research studies have proven this 1,000 times over. So if you put an EMF field right up around your brain, then scientifically, science, okay, you are absorbing more heavy metals and toxins from your environment.
Correct.
All right. So that leads to Alzheimer's and things like that, and dementia. Right. So it's like, you want to keep your EMF fields not right up in your brain. Like, you don't want these headphones. Like, I don't care if they cost you a couple $100. Throw them away, take a photo, put it on TikTok, you know, like there's all these sorts of like throw them in the trash challenges. You can be cool on the other side of the fence. We live in duality. It's up to you. The choice is yours.
Oh my
Seriously.
gosh.
You know
I love
what I
it.
mean?
I love it. I love everything you said, because people don't think about not only are you holding something up to your head, it's in your head, like you said, like they've got, and plus they look like aliens, like walking around with these little white things coming out of their ears. I don't feel comfortable talking to people that have these things in, because I don't feel like they're listening to me, whatever they have the ear things on for. I'm like, why do you still have those in when you're carrying on a conversation with me? And B, it's like, it doesn't look natural. It looks like we live in a world of aliens with this technology sticking out of their head. I never liked like the Bluetooth headpieces that like attach to your like eyeglasses and around your ear. But now we've gone a step further than that. Now it's in your ear. And that's what you just said is so important, is like, let's just go ahead and put it in our head, you know, and this is the most important organ in your body, is your brain. And we have a chronic epidemic, if you want, of people that have migraines and headaches, and how much of it has to do with, like, yeah, are you hydrated? Fine. But how much of it has to do with you wear these little AirPods all day long, or your car is emitting Bluetooth, your little JBL speakers emitting Bluetooth, your little Alexa's emitting Bluetooth. And we're swimming, like you said, in this sea of EMF radiation. So it's like time, like what we talked about at the beginning, for people to step back and go, all right, let's assess the situation. How much am I exposed to this? Because I want you guys to, like he said, imagine the little laser beams coming off of all this. How much of your body is exposed to laser beams? Because that is the radiation that's no different than if you go and you get x-rays while you're sitting in the dentist chair and they don't put the little, thing on you that protects you from the radiation. Okay, are you comfortable with that? Do you want to go sit in the dentist chair and have them take your pictures without the little thing? Because that's what we're doing day in and day out. And like you said, now we have this in our pocket against our body, not just in our environment, but all on our body at the same time. So we wonder why we have blood sugar issues. We wonder why we're chronically fatigued. We wonder why everybody is getting cancer, and why everybody is low dopamine and has low moods and they're not motivated. What if it is all of this and it's not really about the food? So that's why, yes, what you said is so important. We need to become aware of our environment. And later, I want to touch on, too, the aspect of maybe getting a Wi-Fi meter or an EMF meter for people to just go ahead and explore their environments and go, you know what? Let me see what the dirty electricity in my wall where my head sleeps every night is the reason why I'm waking up 3 and 4 and 5 times a night. So this kind of stuff is really important. But sadly, like you said too, the more I talk to people about it, they're vested in these devices and it's hard to pry them out of their hands because we live in this society where everything is done on this little rectangle. But maybe if we could step back and see what damage this little rectangle is doing to us, we would only use it for the purpose of, communication, or plug it into some sort of auxiliary port that connects to a landline instead of the radiation, like what you were mentioning. Now, as far as like wearable tech, I saw you had a blog post about wearable tech too, because it's not just the AirPods. What about the little Apple Watches? What about the Fitbits? What about the Oura Rings? What about all the things that we have attached to our body at any given time, to where we're like these little robot mechanisms that have to always track our data? Like, where did that come from?
Yeah, my answer to that is slippery slope.
Okay.
And it's like, yes, it's very bad, but also is leading to this acceptance of having technology like on us and inserted into us unnecessarily.
Mm-hmm.
And earlier, when you mentioned the earbuds and not feeling comfortable connecting with people, our power lies in connection. Yeah. We are human, natural beings. I even made this sticker. It's a heart, and it says human for it. Has the heart has it's like a real physical and anatomic heart, and tattooed in it, it says human for life. Aww. And like literally, like you won't see me getting any implants, and I hope that no one else will, but they want to trick people into this, like, digitize your consciousness because of fear of death, become part cyborg, to go to Mars or something through some Elon Musk like total like hype thing, or be cool like a celebrity or whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, we connect as natural beings, like through like heart. Like, people don't realize it. And that's another thing about understanding yourself and who you are and what you are. You're a natural being. And one thing that I challenge people to do is spend time alone. Also, identify with, like, did that full moon keep me up? Did I feel weird because of that? Because a lot of people can't even grasp that, like, different astrology things can impact them. And I know that's a little off tangent, but different things make you feel different. And I want to say the reason why we absorb the radiation is it's light waves that we cannot see. It's just light on a different spectrum, different than the light that we see from light bulbs. And our bodies, our skin cells and everything, our skin, it has an endocrine system that's designed to absorb light. We absorb light to set our circadian clock, to absorb the vitamins from the sun and all this sort of stuff. So we're designed to absorb it. So if that Wi-Fi router is right there, we're designed to absorb that light. And then our bodies think that it's noon, that it's bright light. So imagine that Wi-Fi router's in your bedroom and your body's being told it's noon, it's bright light, it's bright light, it's bright light. You can't get your circadian clock down and you get depressed because the melatonin, serotonin, all these things are developed in the middle of the night. And your body's never told that it's the middle of the night. And then you start to, slowly have these issues. I don't hardly even know anybody that can't go on without caffeine. And I think a lot of it is because we are lethargic and have this fog and are dragged down because of this. I'm not going to say it's all that, because that scares people off, but if we addressed all the things and toxins in our environment, and then we wouldn't even need caffeine. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because our cells talk to each other. That communication you mentioned doesn't just happen between you and I. It happens we're made of trillions of cells, and they're all communicating with little hormones and neurotransmitters and all these little messages. But guess what intercepts those is that radiation that we're exposed to that crosses it and goes, nope, I'm going to send you this signal instead. And it throws off our energy. It throws off our mitochondria. It throws off even our mineral status to where we don't feel good. And maybe, just maybe, those people that are listening that are like, I always don't feel good, or I'm always tired, no matter if I sleep good or not, I just feel like this low grade chronic fatigue. What if it's not something's wrong with you? What if it's your environment and what you're exposing yourself to daily? And what if you mitigated some of that and your energy came back and you grounded yourself and you got in water? Like you mentioned earlier, you have a need for getting in water. How good do you feel when you take a dip in the ocean, or you take a dip in a nice calm lake or a river? You feel revitalized.
There's an exchange there, and that's another thing about knowing yourself. And I wanted to touch back on there's a heart field in this connection with others that I've started to notice, and it's more with more people, and realizing that you can see why it's so less powerful to do things online and so much more powerful to connect with people in person without technology, and to set aside that tech. And then also what tech does with electricity and all that is we get this buildup of like positive ions and dirty electricity. And then when we get in the water, it's a flip, and we get this balanced, and we get the negative ions, and we shed the dirty electricity and we get grounded. And then if you start to seriously notice it, because I've noticed it, I've been like off on days and I just even splash water on me, and I'm like, wow, water does a huge difference. Or I take a shower or jump in that lake. Yes, for sure. And you see who you are, which is like a very sensitive, spiritual, natural being. And if you're that sensitive, then this device, that you're around so much, once you detox from it, it's actually really powerful. When you detox from it and you bring it back into your life, then you can see what it truly does.
Absolutely. And so touching on the meters, though, so that people will start to look into their environment. I know you had a blog post too on finding the right EMF meter.
Okay, let's talk about those and minerals while we're at it. Yes. Because before, just now, when we mentioned how we can protect ourselves. Okay, so we're beings made of minerals. And we don't realize that we burn through, and I know I might have talked about this on your last show, but it's okay. It's been over a year. So we burn through about 104, over 100 minerals every day. And it's a whole list of minerals. And these minerals are not in all of the soil. It's not in our food. If we're lucky, we're getting a handful of minerals, good bioavailable minerals in a day. We're not getting dozens, and we're not getting 100, but we need this like 104 each day, right? I've learned that EMF radiation, it actually depletes our body of zinc. And then too much of that looks like a cold. And then we end up, getting sick from too much EMF radiation. And we even show these detox symptoms from it. And minerals are so clutch. It's immensely important, mineralization. So when our bodies are demineralized and not up to speed on the minerals, we act differently. We're lethargic and we're dragged down, and we're trying to get our minerals from our toxic environment, for one. And then we're being hit Okay, so I have to take a pause. So there's all these things going on. There's chemtrails, and please, yes, Frankenskies.com. Please watch the movie Frankenskies. It's a great documentary, and you have to know the world that you live in to understand what I even mean about these minerals and all this stuff. And then like our water and the EMF and our food and all this stuff. How daunting that is, that we have these attacks on so many levels, and why? On so many levels, and why? The why should full circle come back to each and every one of us to realize that we are so powerful that they fear us. Who's they? Don't let that trigger you. The powers that be, the ones that want to keep you down, they're pulling out all the stops because they fear your potential. Because when you learn how powerful you are, you're unstoppable. Like that, everyone has to take that away from this show. Okay. So don't let fear get in the way of any of it. Like hold on to truth and ride that frequency of truth to all these higher vibration realizations, especially empowerment of self and knowledge of self. And then even, even deeper stuff, but it starts with mineralization. So minerals are very important. And when you don't have all the minerals processing, we're electrical beings. Imagine this intricate nervous system. I went in my 20s to the bodies exhibit. If you've ever not been, I recommend. So cool.
Yeah.
I mean, weird and wild and very amazing and cool. And to see, like, okay, I did the public education system. They said like Fairfax County is like right outside of DC. They said it was like one of the best public education systems. I didn't take anatomy and all that schooling, or farming or anything. And you know what? If they really were the best public education system, I would have gotten out of there knowing a little bit about like where the freaking organs in my body are, at least, and the circulatory system, the nervous system. The nervous system is unbelievable, and it is electrical, you all. It's based on electricity, and EMF stands for electromagnetic frequencies. And so start to put two and two together. Like we are very much electrical beings all the way down to our cells. And we operate on conductivity and minerals. And it's no wonder why we need and burn through 104 minerals every day. And some of these minerals are gold and selenium and copper and even aluminum. And you're like, wait, aluminum is good in a bioavailable plant form. Our body uses it, but not in a heavy metal toxic version like the ones in the inoculations or in the deodorants or in the chemtrails and la-ti-da. There's a difference between bioavailable plant version of things. Okay. And a lot of people, when they get their minerals, they think, and I've met old people that have their joints and they're all calcified, and they are explaining to me, don't take the minerals that are not plant-based because they're just eating rocks and your joints get calcified and stuff. And it's important because we're not built to absorb rocks like this zeolite and all these things that are like pitched as like detoxifiers, the diatomaceous and all these things. It's all right in very small bits, but a lot of these minerals that people take, they're rocks. So I don't think they're necessarily like taking like the mineral pitch. It doesn't really matter, but anything that's not plant-based. So I'm learning that you can take the minerals and give them in the soil to the plants, and the plants can absorb them, and then your plants have the minerals in them, and then you can feed that to the animals or yourself, and then you can get the minerals that way. But taking in like diatomaceous earth, there's like, these are calcified diatoms, these little ancient, this is just, your body's not absorbing it. Okay. What your body can absorb, what I take every day is sea moss. I take these sea moss supplements that it's a plant, which makes it bioavailable because it's a plant and we can absorb plants. And the sea moss by itself, which is a very intense plant to even get used to. It's like dried up and you got to learn about it. I get it in a pill form, all ground up, but it's like a seaweed. It's very dense, very mineral rich. I liken it to even like caviar or something, or organ meat. It's so dense and mineral rich, and your body has to get used to it. Some people, it takes time for them to even be able to absorb it. And that has like 90 bioavailable minerals in it. It's like gangbusters, and it doesn't throw your body out of ketosis. So you can do it while fasting. And I learned about it from Dr. Sebi, rest in peace, who I recommend everyone learn about, who put me on a pH and body chemistry and all this stuff. SEBI, a tall Honduran black man who cured a lot of people through pH and diet, and diet's everything. And so the pills that I take are the CMOS mixed with bladderwrack and burdock, and it's on Amazon. There's all sorts of brands, and I get them organic and wild crafted often, and I mix it up, and I take different brands to see how my body feels. My body loves it. I think it's because I'm highly mineral deficient, and so my body's like, oh wow, you're getting 104 freaking minerals. This feels like coffee sometimes to me, you know. And the reason why it's mixed with the other things, the Irish sea moss mixed with bladderwrack and burdock, which is a root vegetable and another seaweed, is that combined is has the iron that you need and all the other minerals that you need to get the 104 bioavailable minerals that you would need on a daily basis. So then if you're getting all of the minerals that you need on a daily basis, then you're up to speed on what your body wants to burn through, and you're not super mineral deficient, and you're not trying to grab it from your environment, which is often toxic. So you're not absorbing the aluminum from the chemtrails or the radioactive strontium from the chemtrails and absorbing them into your bones, hoping that that's the calcium that you need. You're up to speed on the calcium, and you're not absorbing these toxins from your toxic environment. Also, the EMF field is not impacting you as much, because you're up to, you're basically defending yourself by, okay, so there's this thing when everyone was getting sick a couple of years, and all these different people started coming out with this whole terrain theory and all this stuff. It's so important to grasp how powerful we are. That's why our music, our food, our water, our clothing, our air, everything's under attack, because if we could grasp that we are untouchable, right, then we would honor like what we put on our body and the media that we put into our eyes and every single thing. Because if we really knew, then we wouldn't, walk around with a 5G phone in our pocket all the time and stuff and things, aspartame and all these things that bog us down, and then we feel sick. My mom, she oftentimes gets congested, and I was telling her all the time, you're going to beat that cold, take the CMOS. She's like, there's no way. She thought I could hear her thoughts, like, cause she likes the allopathic, doctors and all that. God bless her. And she started taking the CMOS, and she says, Matt, right when I get congested, because it dries up mucus. It's amazing. And a part of what it does is the CMOS, it's grown in the ocean. It's got this negative charge to it, where the ions alone, like the way that it's charged, it can attract toxins, and it's amazing. It's gangbusters. And that alone is so empowering, just to grasp. You're grasping why it's important, what it does, like what's in it, like how your body's reacting. Like if you can just wrap your head around this and then throw those synthetic vitamins in the trash, you can pretty much throw a lot of that stuff in the trash. I think that as I started learning about enzymes, I started like just, there's so many things. For instance, fruit juice. There's this layer of information that now my body does not like fruit juice that's been pasteurized, because your body wants to have that digestive enzyme accompanying the food that you eat, so that it knows how to process it and absorb it and make it bioavailable and absorb those minerals and vitamins and stuff. You can't really absorb it without that enzyme. The enzyme is like this lock and key that explains to your body how to absorb the thing that you're eating. And when it's pasteurized, that enzyme gets broken down and busted up and morphed and warped and killed, and your body doesn't have that enzyme. And then your pancreas has to figure out how to make its own enzyme to replicate that enzyme that was there if it hadn't been boiled, And these things are so simple. It's like, wait a second, why does fresh squeezed orange juice and pasteurized orange juice, why is it so much different for me? Why does it feel different? Why do I feel why is it so much different? And then you start to learn. And then milk, same thing. I'm like pretty much lactose intolerant, but then I'm not, because I started learning about, oh man, we have to talk about this. So I started really quick. I started getting dairy from Amish farms.
Yeah.
And what I learned is the clean dairy acts as a lipid toxin removal system. So the lipids are so clean because the Amish cows are not inoculated at all. They don't have any of that stuff.
Right.
And then also it's not pasteurized and it's raw. And it's the opposite of the really bad milk or whatever that you get that has all the toxins in it, that has pulled the toxins from the cow. It gets in your body clean and it pulls the toxins out of you.
Right. Yep.
And it's really amazing. I've learned so much about that, and my body can digest it, which I never thought I could ever eat dairy ever again. And so it's like, wait a second. So we're going to do the Coke Pepsi challenge, which comparing the two is not, I mean, it's like wheatgrass and Budweiser challenge. We've got regular old milk that I used to drink growing up, 2%. 2% of what we had in the fridge, because skim milk is too skinny and the other stuff will make you fat, whatever. It's like marketing, right? 2% milk, what I used to grow up drinking, which would totally make me ill, compared to grass-fed, unpasteurized, raw Amish, which doesn't have these toxins in it.
For sure.
And it's literally like a curative. It's making me feel good and pulling toxins out and giving me all these fats that I need and all this stuff. The other one makes me ill. Side by side. They're not even the same thing. And I had to learn this through knowing myself, knowing my body, and feeling it all out. And also refining my body. And like once I got my body, I like to do saunas a lot. I do intermittent fasting, and also sometimes I'll do a fast for like 48 hours or something. But the intermittent fasting I love it. Like I'll go if I can go until like 5 p.m. and then eat like fruit and then eat like a crazy big meal, then I'm feeling really, really good. And I can make the fast prolonged by taking the CMOS. It doesn't throw you out of the fast, which is breaking ketosis or whatever. So by refining my body now, if I take in toxins, my body just like knows. Like I either get sick or like I'll even get like a zit in my nose. Like I get sick from certain things, and my body just has refined itself. But I think that if you are eating McDonald's every day and then you go and eat, Burger King, you're not going to get sick, right? Because your body's accustomed to it and has it's used to the toxins. Your body can. You can adjust your body to anything, which is it's like a fine-tunable machine. And that's how we adapt to having a Wi-Fi router next to our beds at night, But also the woman who came to me, she asked me for help because she had brain fog. And I'm like, sister, you're like getting my clothing and like asking me these questions, and this thing is 3 feet from your head as you sleep. Like, we got the brain fog covered, trust me. And she's like, oh, God bless you, Matt. And I'm like, God bless his EMF meter. So let's talk to the EMF meter. So there's a lot of different types of EMF meters out there, and it seems very daunting, I know. The things that people need to know are, one, you want to get a meter that's expensive. Sorry, because it has what's called a field measurement, which is XYZ, which is X, Y, and Z on the plane of coordinates, and so it measures the field, like the cloud, and not just a linear. Because the cheap ones that you can get for like $40, it's just shooting a line and measuring the EMF or whatever it can hit, and it's not a very accurate measurement. Like if you point it the right way, you can get a 0 reading, and it's not accurate. The XYZ grasps what's really going on, which it's light, and the light's got to be measured accurately. And so if you end up spending like $150, you can end up getting something decent. The best one you can get is like 500, but you can end up with something pretty decent for like a couple $100. And there's so many different brands, and I've got a blog on my website, Spero, SPERO gear.com. We got a little blog on there, and on there we explain the meters and why and what and stuff like that. But basically you get what you pay for. So if you spend you gotta make the little investment, but then you have something super cool and you can drive around with it in your car and show your friends. And it's quite the investment. I mean, I've got so many metaphors about people and money and stuff, but people have no problem going to Starbucks and dropping $8. But when their eggs are like $1 more because they're really organic and healthy, they'll like complain. The eggs are going to feed you for like a freaking week. It's like the priorities. Okay, so you know, save up if you have to, or go in on it with a neighbor, whatever. But it's so nice to know. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, this wearable device. And yes, the wearable devices, no, they're not good. They're throwing off your whole system. Your whole system is electrical. Touch your hand. Touch your hand. Okay. There's electrical synapses going from that feeling all the way up to your brain.
Right.
And like the more that you fry yourself, you're literally numbing yourself to the world. And that's what they want. And everyone's triggered by the they, but it's like people want to control you. They want to sell you stuff, whatever it is. They're greedy. And it's like, we want our sovereignty and our individuality and the truth, and we can hone in on that by not being technological experiments and what have you, just unplug these things. Some people will adopt it. You'll go into their houses and they'll have Internet of Things, everything, Alexa, this, baby monitors, and this and that, and we have to give them grace as well, because they are still human. And maybe in time we can show them the way in certain ways. Maybe just they need to be mineralized if they're going to be living in that environment, and show them how to eat healthy, because that resonates with everyone, eating healthy. I mean, some people it doesn't, because it sounds like not eating like things that don't taste good, but healthy food tastes really good. So that's that. And then as far as the meters go, there's different ones to measure the dirty electricity coming off of your outlets. Yeah. Okay, that gets a little more complicated, right? Suffice it to say, there's dirty electricity coming off your outlets a little bit, and distance is your friend. So if your bed is right next to it, pull it away a foot. Distance is your friend when it comes to that.
Yeah,
big time. And the EMF, distance is your friend just the same. There's this thing called the inverse square law, and it applies to light and sound. And EMF radiation is light. It's just light on a different spectrum that we cannot see. And so as you get further away from it, it's like a crying baby. As you get further away in the next room, it's not even impactful. So it exponentially falls off. You can see it with the meter. As you step away from the cell phone or step away from the whatever, it falls off exponentially. It's like if you're next to the Wi-Fi router, it's like a sun, and the sun is giving you sunburn, literally. Yeah. But as you step away, you're not getting burned by it because it's not as bright, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think you and I were separated at birth because we did the same. From our last podcast, we're the same age. I went to the bodies exhibit and felt the same as you. It's like, why didn't they teach me this in school? And then hearing you talk about like the thinking outside the box, it's like, yeah, you get it. And I wish other people would get it, because it's not rocket science. But we're doing a lot of things in our society that are not native to the human body. They're non-native devices. They're non-native exposures. And so the closer we get back to nature, and the closer we get back to native things that humans have always done, like be outside in the sun, on the earth, touch the earth, touch water. These are native things. And sometimes in order to do those things, you have to leave the devices inside. I was just talking to a group of people yesterday about having daily reflection or daily quiet time. And you can't do that with all the noise in your hand, whether it's EMF noise or the constant feed. Leave that inside. Go outside and just see if you can sit and watch a cloud go by. See if you can sit and listen to the birds. See if you can sit with your feet in water and just hear and feel and do nothing, because a lot of people can't do that. And that's an issue. Like, you should be able to do that. We should be able to lay on a blanket and make shapes out of the clouds like we did when we were little, and watch fireflies and lightning bugs, like you said, when you were little. I used to love doing that and still do. But a lot of people don't even know that there's lightning bugs out there. So
and be present.
because they're inside looking at these blue lit devices. So we
Mhm.
really, that's one of the biggest takeaways I want for people listening to this, is to like think back to natural living rather than these non-native habits that we've gotten into. Now, we're getting close on time, so I want to touch on a few things. Do you have like one meter that you use and that you love, and then we'll move on to the next topic?
Yeah, acoustometer,
Okay.
ACOUST, acoustometer. It's like the best one, and you can get it on Amazon.
Okay.
And it's pretty expensive, but it shows the volts and it shows the electricity, the dirty electricity, and the EMF,
Okay.
the watts per meter squared or whatever it is, and the two side by side is perfect. And then it shows when it caps and stuff, and I mean like how when it peaks, and it gives you a little number reading, and they're the best, and they're the tri-field. They measure like the three-way, and it's like a little easy handheld thing. One thing to note about what you said, about all of what you said, is firstly, being present with people and connecting with people. It's something is very important to be able to have a conversation and actually be able to listen and have a conversation, and not just be listening to reply and to interrupt. Okay, because no one can even have a conversation anymore because of their feed and their gadgets, and how they're like the center of attention on their device. So they have to, like, oh wait, but I got something to say or something. It's like, just calm down and have a conversation is very important. And one thing that I just realized is there's so much to learn out in the natural world, and we're not going to learn it on our devices. And everyone thinks, no matter, and this is what I've learned about being around kids, is once they get that device, they think they know everything and they can't be taught anything. And as I get older, I'm learning that there's so much to learn about my ancestry, my spiritual self, and like even like my astral self and all this sort of stuff, but also really grounded things like, those little twirly things that come off of maple trees, those seeds, those are edible.
Yes,
Those have all these vitamins in them. Okay.
Yes, they
There's
are.
things that are all around me.
Oh yeah.
Okay. That if I had and I don't have a cell phone anymore. It was 3G. They turned it off January 1st. I have no cell phone. So, and I actually was able to, I have a new girlfriend, and I was able to get, meet a person through just a landline.
Nice.
I'll call you. No texting. No. Like all this stuff. It was, like slightly challenging because it was new, but like literally I'm living a full life. And I'm learning that without that phone, there's so much to learn in the real world. Okay. Like get out there and go camping and learn that all those things around you. I mean, I saw two bluebirds like kiss this morning. They weren't exchanging food. I get out in the world myself, and I go on these bike rides, and I get going to nature, and I'm grasping so much. And a lot of things I believe are lies. There's hidden knowledge in the world that we're not even told about. And if you just open your eyes, it's right before your eyes. And I'm not going to get too deep into all that right now, but it's like, there's so much to learn. There's mushrooms to pick, plants to learn how to grow, what's resilient, where you live and why. And it's just like, if you start to look up at the sky, you learn so much. I learned so much about chemtrails for one, but if you just open your eyes to the stars, to the sun, to nature, and imagine if the lights do go out and we are needing to be resilient. It's those that know how to identify these plants. And I mean, there's so many things that we don't know, you guys, and you're not just going to learn it by swiping on your Facebook feed. I mean, that coriander that's likely in your kitchen. Do you know what that is? I don't know if everyone knows. Coriander is the seed of a cilantro plant.
Right.
And so many people do not even know those two little things. I didn't know potatoes grew potatoes. And that's the whole, my whole little story when I go on podcasts. I'm like, I had a master's degree. I graduated top of my class. I didn't know potato grew potatoes. I didn't know anything. I thought I knew everything. And now I'm slowly learning that I know nothing. And that's the whole story. But yeah, no, it's so important to realize how much there is to learn out there through experience, through just getting out in the world and seeing it and living it, not through your device.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you drive down the road and you see the little white tufts that are alongside the road, these like big sticky uppy plants that have like white tufts. Some people call them Queen Anne's lace. Those are
Mm-hmm.
wild carrots. We have so
Mm-hmm.
many wild carrots in our world that we will never go hungry if
Yeah.
people would really know that. Like
We
there's
have
so much.
miner's lettuce. You know that miner's lettuce?
Yeah,
We have that
yeah.
everywhere, but nobody even knows what it is.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. I make
Yeah.
backyard salads, I call it. I can't
Mm,
grow a garden to save my life, but I learned how to forage because our creator
cool.
grows a much better garden than I could. So I just learned how to forage in order to
Yeah, good.
have the abundance. But anyway, I don't want to miss out on asking you about people sneezing all the time and allergies. And I have my own theory on this because I look up and I see day in and day out here in the Midwest tons of lines across the sky. And I don't think it's a coincidence that people have more allergies now than they ever had, and that people are sneezing a lot more. Okay. So I wanted to hear your thoughts on this, and then also why I didn't see it in Montana.
Why you didn't see chemtrails in Montana?
I did not for 10 days.
Mm,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So there's, well, when were you in Montana? Just now?
Just now, just a couple weeks ago, I was in Montana for 10 days. I saw
Yeah.
zero geoengineering, but yet I live in the Midwest and I see it
Mhm.
virtually every day.
So it's May, and they're probably just trying to dry up Montana right now. And so
Mm,
they've probably got like a little bubble around Montana where they're like not letting moisture in and they don't need to do anything right now. It's probably under like a little maintenance time right now. They
okay.
did, Montana does get it. Not, I mean, if you're not, different areas get it more than others. And that's very fascinating.
Yeah.
You know, why do different areas get it more than others? And that's a whole nother conversation. um, well, we can go there. I think there's different farmlands, there's different areas where they're worried about. So where I live, they're very worried about it. We get it really bad, and this is one area they want to control through the frequency. They want to control the frequency. Spiritually, they want to control like the outcome here, and it's also a farm community. They want to make sure that they're in control here, whatever that means. Um, and other things. So the pollen, I believe, acts as a vector for their little experiments. So there's, to the listeners, there's all these very just levels of listener right now. So there's
Mhm.
people that know exactly what I'm talking about and people that think that chemtrails, maybe they're on the fence. If you're on the fence about what I'm talking about, please first watch Frankenskies. It starts
Right.
off 1920s, goes through the historical chronological timeline of weather engineering and weather modification. It takes a lot of experimenting for them to even sharpen their tools.
Yeah.
Their tool belt is still getting sharpened, and it came out in the 20s, if that makes sense. Okay. So they're figuring out how to manipulate weather, how to push this global warming narrative, how to also control humanity in certain ways. And that's a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow. But they want to control humanity in certain ways, control the food supply in certain ways, and all this sort of stuff. You know, at the end of the day, it's like a spiritual war, but to grasp it, let's just say like, you know, Monsanto is now Bayer, is all like big pharma. They own the farmland. They, you know, it's like they want to make sure that we're not super spiritual freaking gangbusters. We need their products. We got to be buying their stuff, you know,
Oh,
for whatever reason, because everyone wants to know why, how, why. Because my quick and easy answer is, yeah, they spray the chemtrails, it sticks to the pollen that gets in the humans. Okay, it's easy. Okay, and it acts as a vector. Okay, because the pollen, if you look at it under a microscope, it's freaking like it's all pokey. It looks like a little,
like
you seen
ball.
it? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a little
Yeah.
spike ball. And that little spike ball gets in people.
Yeah.
And so I've noticed it every single year, right where I live in Ashland, Oregon, right when all these things start to bloom and there's the cottonwood is all over the place. Yeah, you better believe they're spraying like crazy.
Mm.
And I think they know that all that pollen in the air acts as a vector. So they also know that smoke acts as a vector. And so there's tropospheric aerosol program. It's a Department of Energy
Yeah, you read
program.
my mind. I was going to bring that up. So go for
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So there's this document. It's like hidden in plain sight. There's like the word chemtrails is not in there, contrails is not in there, geoengineers are not in there. But in 2001, right before 9/11, the biggest distraction ever, the Department of Energy came out with TAP, Tropospheric Aerosol Program. And the document's easy to find if you just look up Tropospheric Aerosol Program, TAP, DOE, Department of Energy, PDF. And there it is. And it's on my website as well, actualactivists.com under chemtrails. And so in this very verbose document, it's detailed a lot of this research, it's experiments and research. And whenever there's like forest fires and stuff, whether they're created or not by the powers that be, they like to figure out how to lay on top of the smoke their stuff, their aerosolized constituents, whether it be barium salts or aluminum oxide or radioactive strontium or whatever. Okay. And if that's hard to believe, watch Frankenskies, because in the 70s, they figured out how to aerosolize radioactive zinc cadmium sulfide and spray it over the projects in St. Louis, primarily children. And they monitored tens of thousands of children to see how many people would die from this radioactive zinc cadmium sulfide sprayed by the Air Force. So like they've figured out how to aerosolize things, and then they research different vectors, because the deal with the chemtrails is it doesn't really if it's like a dry day, for instance. So I lived in Sedona, Arizona, and those cobalt blue skies, it's a lot harder there to make the chemtrails stick. They got to spray like crazy because the skies are all dry and you don't have the moisture. When I lived on the coast in Northern California, the fog comes in, they lay it on the fog, and that can act as a vector as well. So it seems like they like to test on the human populace, and it's like people are still like probably like, why? I don't think that World War II is what we were told. I think that Operation Paperclip, when they brought over all these Nazis, they kind of like got in bed with the Nazis, and really we didn't win World War II necessarily. And so the war's been ongoing, y'all. It's just a different type of war. It's a quiet, covert war still. And we are, going to rise as we see the truth and realize our spiritual destiny and how powerful we are. And that's why we're under attack and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, they lay the chemtrails out on different things to get them in us. So I think they know how to stick it on the pollen. Sorry, long answer.
Oh. Okay, well, that makes sense, because I was more or less thinking when you look up aluminum toxicity or barium or strontium or the things, I mean, you probably know more about what's coming out of the skies, but some of these things actually mimic the symptoms of like a cold or allergies or flu-like symptoms. And so when this past winter, when everybody was so sick, like it wasn't even, the virus, it was like people were just getting colds and flus and colds and all these things. In the Midwest, at least, there was a lot of spray going on. And I'm like, I'm not sure anymore if this has to do with actually us just, getting colds and flus, or if we're actually getting exposed to something that's creating these toxic symptoms. So that's why I wanted your feedback on that.
Well, also all the phones are getting turned up at the same time too. And I
True.
hate to be conspiracy Calvin or whatever,
Yeah, but
the phones are getting turned up too. And I've seen it in my phone bags. I've had to go on to number 4. I'm on version 4.0. And this is like Matt buying a bunch of freaking phone bags and then working for a time frame, and then customers being like, my iPhone is now ringing through. The iPhones now and the other smartphones, but the iPhone started off this technology where the 5G signal is such a small bandwidth, it cannot go very far. So now they're utilizing Wi-Fi to do phone calls. And so the Wi-Fi phone calls were getting through my phone bags that were 2 layers of silver, 1 layer of copper. So then I had to come up with this soft copper. It's like denser, thicker copper. So now it's 2 layers of copper, 1 layer of silver, and now it's stopping everything. But the signal started getting super strong. And what is very interesting is it's coinciding with winters and different spikes in these different things. And it's like, I'm in this position where I'm literally, I'm in this position where literally they're spraying barium in the sky, which they spray barium to prime the sky for a big, heavy spray day. So the barium are these rockets that are shorter trails that a lot of people call contrails. So the shorter trails and the medium trails are barium salts. So they'll prime the sky with like barium. And if it's going to be like a really crazy day, the next day of spraying, sometimes the barium gets so crazy that people are like, oh, I can't breathe. And they're like, oh, I can't breathe because of the pollen. That's what they say. They're like, oh, I can't breathe because of the pollen. I'm like looking at this elaborate orchestra. I'm talking like I can point at 15 planes at any given moment. And they're like, oh, I can't breathe because of the pollen. And I'm like, are you allergic to pollen? They're like, not usually. And okay, so there's that. And I just have to bite my tongue sometimes. And I'm not saying don't speak your truth, but pick your battles is what I'm saying. So then also I'm seeing my phone bags stop working. And people are going, oh, I'm sick all of a sudden. They got a new iPhone. They're sick all of a sudden. And the phone bags are getting penetrated. The phones they can't just all of a sudden turn the phones up to become 5G cell towers. Okay. So it's this mesh system where each phone is now a repeater of all the signal. So your phone is going to take your whole neighborhood signal and push it on to the next phone or cell tower, wherever it can push it, because then it can only push it like 500 feet really, because the really strong signal is a small in size, the carrier wave. So to tell people really quick, there's carrier waves and they have a size, and it's like a wave that literally you can measure in height. And so a really tall one is like an AM wave, and that's like 100 feet tall. And those 100 feet tall waves, you can't get that many waves per second. So you can't get that much data in there, but you can get it to travel very far distances. So your AM, you can pick it up, but where's that AM tower? It's like some mountain somewhere, right? But it can go far and it can go through things like houses and people because it's 100 feet tall. And it's literally just like math and physics. It's very simple. So as the wave gets smaller, like FM waves, they can't go as far because they're only like 10 feet tall, but they can still go very far. Then Wi-Fi, it's measured in centimeters and it oscillates, but it's like around 1.5 feet. It's like 30 centimeters or something like that. And Wi-Fi, as you know, can not go through that much because it absorbs into bricks and things, and it can only go like a block or whatever. And then 5G, it's measured in millimeters, and there's high band, low band, depends on your carrier and all this sort of stuff. The most powerful is Verizon, and it's called high band, and it also oscillates, but it's measured in millimeters. So it's around like 2 millimeters, we'll just say. The width of a penny is 1.5 millimeters. So it's such a small carrier wave that it's absorbing into even leaves and bugs and people and things. It absorbs in your skin, and therefore it has to have every single thing possible pushing the wave around. So your phone now is pushing all of the wave that it can get onto the next device. It's new technology. And if that technology was just turned on all of a sudden, you would feel it and you would be getting sick. They have to slowly turn it up. Okay. Like it's not that diabolical or it is, but if you just think about it from the perspective of the engineers, they have to slowly turn it up to test their system and make sure that everyone doesn't get sick, and people are getting sick, but slowly. And literally I've had to come out with 4 versions of my phone bag. When I came out with the version 2.0, the second version, I was like, oh, I've fixed this problem. They turned it up. The 5G is here. No, they were going to turn it up again. I was going to have to incorporate copper. And now it's layers of this thick copper. And it's like crazy to be in my shoes. Also, I'm the chemtrail guy and I'm into all these other things, health and you name it. So it's very interesting for me to wade these waters of watching people that are maybe wearing masks for 3 years also. It's like, I definitely pick my battles, and I know that we're in an empire of lies, and a lot of us are resonating with the truth. To what extent? I hope 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so people are aware, anything that has published data behind it is not conspiracy. Okay. So everything that he's talking about today has published data behind it, including the Frankenskies documentary that you guys have to watch. This isn't conspiracy or hearsay. This is published data. So, and I'll link to that tropospheric aerosol program too that you have on your website as well.
True.
Okay, lastly, 15-minute cities. How brief can you tell us about this? Because I know we definitely both wanted to touch on this.
Thank you. And I appreciate you. And this has gone so well. And I love connecting with you. You're such a pure soul and a real person.
Oh,
And it's it's few and far between, believe me, you.
thank
Not
you.
that not that I'm as jaded as I sound, but you're the real deal. And you're born in 1980.
Yeah, I remember in the last podcast we're like we're the same
That's
age,
so cool.
we're the same
Yeah.
genre. We did the same things growing up. So yeah, I
Yeah,
love
no,
it.
that's really rad. I
Yeah.
almost forgot. Yeah, we're both metal monkeys. That's so cool.
Right.
What date? What month are you born?
June 20th.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
So the plan, Agenda 2030, which leads to Agenda 2050, which Agenda 2050 is to fear people so much that they stay home and that they literally put on VR goggles and that out in the world goes their avatar, which
Ugh.
is like a maybe like a cyborg, maybe a clone type version of themselves, but it could be whatever they want it to be. It could be like um, the opposite sex or whatever it may be,
Yeah.
because they will be so afraid of the real world. And that's what Agenda 2050 is. And so Agenda 2030 is hoarding everyone into smart cities and creating in the United States this parcels of land that you can't live on because these are no-go zones because they're so dangerous. So for your own safety, you can't live there anymore. And
Hmm.
it's happening where I live right here. I'm seeing it firsthand. And there's fires, and then there'll be fires a few years later. And then they'll say, look, you can't live in this zone anymore because it's fire prone.
Oh wow.
Mind you, barium salts and aluminum oxide are fire accelerants. Patented fire accelerants are being
Mhm.
sprayed under the guise of, oh, we got to save you from geoengineering. I mean, from climate change, which is geoengineering. So then there's windstorms created on top of these fires, whereas all the way back to the 20s, we knew we could make rain, and we could make rain on top of fires, but the conversation's not even had. So there's fires, and we say, oh, our hands are tied. And then we point to the landowners and say, you can't live there anymore. So the goal is to push people off their land. There's this, supposedly California is banning gas generators, and so people won't be able to live off grid and all that. They by 2030, the sale of gas generators will be outlawed. It's like, this is mainstream news. And so these 15-minute cities are all under this same guise of being green, which green really is watermelon, I've learned, which is green on the outside, red on the inside, like communist socialist red. And so climate change and global warming has been spun so hard, where if anybody's having the conversation and not realizing that geoengineering is climate change, and geoengineering, chemtrails, is global warming. Okay.
Mhm.
Every single hurricane, every single crazy fire, every single heat wave, look at the freaking sky. They're spraying chemtrails. They're making it right in front of your eyes. Like, this is the elephant in the room that everyone has to know.
Right.
So like that conversation. So then jumping forward to, like, we need to act on saving ourselves from global warming because it's our anthropogenic carbon emissions and whatnot, which is a farce. There's this whole system being set up, social credit system, which relies on AI, which is the opposite of human, in natural world. And then the 15-minute cities are being set up as well in the United States, and they're being called low traffic neighborhoods, LTNs. And they're saying that anything you do has to take 15 minutes or less, or you're making too much carbon and therefore you're bad for the world because of the carbon emissions. And they're basically going to make it so people can't leave their little jurisdictions. So at first, because people are easily brainwashed, they're saying, well, we'll give you like credits so that you can leave a certain amount of time per year. And so people are like, well, I got like 20 credits and it's all good. I hardly even leave my 15-minute zone. And then afterwards, they'll say you can only go once a year or whatever. And if you want to go really far already, you have to come and like go in front of the tribunal and tell them why you want to go far, because
Wow.
your carbon emission, they're giving it a little like social credit score, And then this is all like starting in the UK. This is why I'm going to go to London and participate in these protests and have it in my next movie. That's why the next movie is not done, is because we're going to buck this thing. And so humanity will respond, and we will like say no to this and not let it come over here. But what they want to do, and they're setting up barricades and saying, if it takes more than 15 minutes, you have to ask us and apply for this. And so there's 2 cities outside of London where they're setting it up. And essentially they want you to rat out your neighbor if they take a shower each day, because that's bad for the green. Anything that's not green, you basically get in this snitch program and you rat out everyone. And through augmented reality and AI and cameras everywhere, it ends up like China, but China with a green, crazy green, weird twist, which is like AI takeover. And it becomes very weird and dystopian when everything that you do is based on what they say is not okay, which is like, oh, you can't have a burger because that cow farted and methane released. Whereas landfills release, did you know landfills release the off-gas methane and no one even talks about that?
Yeah.
But then they point the finger at the cows and they say the cows fart and they don't talk about the chemtrails over their head or anything like that. And now the cow farmers are getting like literally taxed and they have to have carbon offset, like this and that. And it's all under this, it's all slippery slope green nonsense. And so where I live right now, I'll just give you one little example and then we can end the show. And this is very fascinating. So the Army Corps of Engineers came over here in the West where I live, and they made reservoirs and dams, and they created areas so that people could live here, have agriculture and stuff like that. So we have these huge reservoirs, huge dams and stuff like that, so that in the flood season, the rivers aren't flooding. And in the summer, when the rivers would be dried up, we have irrigation for our crops. So we rely on these systems. So now they're coming in and they're saying, no, we've got to rewild and regreen it. And the state's saying, what are you talking about? And the Biden administration is like, nope, green initiative. We have to do this. They're taking out hydrological dams. They're taking out reservoirs. And they're saying, no, we have to remove all this infrastructure to rewild, right? They're going to make it so that it's unlivable. And then they're going to say, oh, you can't live there. They're also coming in and saying that we're in these zones that are fire prone, and therefore we can't have trees that are 6 feet apart. We can't live near riparian zones, which is like all along the roadways and all this sort of stuff. They're coming up with all these weird laws saying people can't get homeowners insurance. They can't rebuild. They literally cannot live on certain parcels of land where they own, because they want to push people into these 15-minute cities, dictate what they do, get everyone under this. It's basically, when I grew up outside of DC, we had this thing called PC, politically correct. It's guilting people into this notion that being so PC over green and climate change is okay, that you can just narc and rat out everyone for everything they do always, and everyone has to be in this little bubble of 15 minutes. And if they leave, then because it relies on everyone being in charge of everyone else, like snitching on everybody, because the AI can't do it all. So it's very odd and slippery slope, but it relies on humanity turning on itself. And if we just embrace love for the win, show up with our sovereignty and our humanity, and show people the light in the right way. For the chemtrails, you know what I do? I show people the beautiful blue, fluffy sky days. I say, this is a beautiful blue day. There's no planes in the sky, and there will be no planes in the sky today. Mark my words. And then people start to recognize that there's days where there's lines in the sky, and there's days that there's not. But it's not in a fear-based place, because if you come at them shaming them, don't you know about this? They're poisoning you and your kids and blah, blah, blah. Look at those lines. They just put you in a box, and they don't want to hear it. But if you come at them with love in your own way, shape, and form, you can open their hearts, and everyone together can raise our collective hearts. And that's why we're here.
Oh, wow. I love that. So going back to your powerful notion of like empowering ourselves and educating ourselves, I was just thinking while you were talking, is like, a lot of people are going to think there's a lot that we're powerless over. Like, there's so much going on. Where do I start? What do? I just feel powerless with all this modern tech world and toxic world. But like you said, we're very powerful, and we need to focus on what we have power over, which is our health, our choices, being in nature, what we do with our bodies, spending time with those we love apart from devices. Like, that makes you powerful. And so we need to realize that we're not powerless, we're powerful. And that feeling of powerlessness, we can have power over and go, I'm not powerless. I'm going to stand in my power and do the best I can with what I have. and make choices that benefit my family, myself, my community in ways that are easy and natural and like logical. It doesn't take a lot to go stand in the sun and watch the sunrise in the morning. It's free, it's easy, and it's something you can do to mitigate your health issues. So I just wanted to touch on that because it's so important that we do take control of what we can control and then wash your hands of the rest. So education is first, learning about your environment, learning about how you can protect yourself. So on that note, please tell them where they can find you, because they need to educate themselves, number one, with the documentary. Number two, if they're concerned about, which they should be, about EMF and 5G, they need to protect themselves. So you have a way of doing that. And then, so yeah, go through the spiel of how they can connect with you and find you, and then also benefit from what you're putting out there.
Thanks so much. And yes, I really resonated with what you just said, because I used to always say knowledge is power, but I realized that it is, but it's knowledge plus action. That's the equation, because you take that into and apply it. And that's wisdom, is applying your knowledge in the real world. And that's the power. Like if you have the knowledge, but you're still treating your body poorly or whatever it may be, then you're not applying it. And so I've got a lot of health type stuff on my website, actualactivists.com.
Yes.
I have a podcast recommendation page. I have a lot on there. I've got movie recommendations. I've got sections you could get lost on. I've got a daily blog, truth blog thing.
Yeah, I love that.
I've got to interact. I'm going to start making it more interactive, because I realize that our social media gets very censored, and this is going to become a slowly but surely a social media hub. And so I'm going to start posing questions weekly where people can engage, and slowly I have a big dream for that page. So there's a lot of education there, and please check it out. Actualactivists.com. I'm even going to start selling stickers on there and stuff like that. So there's a shop, and Frankenskies DVDs on there for $3. Check it out, please. And then as well, I have an EMF protection clothing line. That's at SPERO, which is the Latin word for hope, because I strive to bring hope to the next generation and to people with this empowerment. Sparrow Gear, Sparrow Gear on Instagram, sparrowgear.com. And then Frankenskies, FRANKEN skies.com. Frankenskies, if you just looked it up on the internet, you'd probably find it as well. It's all over the place, BitChute and stuff. But on the website, it connects you to Vimeo. And I used to have a beautiful YouTube channel, got pulled, but it's still all over there because I'm so thankful that when I look up my name, my presentations are out there that I've given on chemtrails, not just on my platforms, because people have reposted and shared them up a lot. And Frankenskies is up there, and it's in a lot of languages. So if you go to frankenskies.com, you can find it there in like 4 languages. And those are people just reaching out and wanting to help. And that's a beautiful thing too. So if you haven't seen it, it's very much worth your while, even if you have to watch it in segments, because I know 80 minutes, hour and 20 minutes is a lot for some people. But if you watch it, it goes through the whole timeline. And by the time the movie gets to the 1950s, it's self-evident that the weather must be engineered by now, because why would they perfect their skills and not utilize them? Lyndon B. Johnson, right before JFK was killed, he says, control the weather, control the world. And then he takes over as president, and then it all goes hush hush. Of course, he started to utilize the research that they'd been implementing for decades. So please look into that, because it's very important, especially in the world that we live, when everyone's scratching their head, when the hurricanes and tornadoes and drought and floods and fires and all this stuff shows up. And please don't forget how amazing and powerful you are. You don't have to rely on coffee. You can go to the sauna, you can take a jog, you can get your energy back. If that's your thing, then do it. But I'm just saying that you can break all these little habits that you think are your vices, and you can rise above it, because the time is now. And thanks for listening. And thank you so much for hosting this conversation, Jodelle, because there's not very many people like you or us, that have the open heart and open mind to be able to table a conversation that is not stifled by ego. And when you get up caught up in all that. You don't have that free flow. I've noticed that the more you can be yourself, the less you're walking on eggshells, and the more you can really connect with your higher self and this like divine consciousness where it's only truth and light, and all that stuff, fades away, and you can't even like get lied to anymore on that vibration. So hope everyone can honor that.
Oh, thank you for that. This has been my exquisite moment today. So I appreciate you. And I'm going to have you back because I literally, like I said last time, I think I could talk to you all day. So you
Cool.
are my brother from another mother. So
Thank you.
all right. Bye for now. We will be back another time for sure because I really enjoy you. I want to assist you on your health journey. I want to unlock your potential and help you become the best version of yourself. If your sleep is off, if your stress eating is high, if your energy is low, and your gut is irritated, I would love to help you repair, relax, rest, and reignite your passions for life. I offer nutrition therapy and lifestyle coaching worldwide via Zoom, FaceTime, or Google Meet, and I believe in your bio-individual needs. No two persons need the same protocol, so as a nutrition detective, I will ask you a slew of questions to get to the why of your health conditions and provide solutions, tips, recommendations to fit your unique needs and your lifestyle. So if you're ready to get fit with Jodelle, just give me an email quickly. It's getfitwithjodelle@gmail.com. You can find that in the link to the show notes. And let's get you on the path to feeling your most optimal self. So you're dealing with late night sugar cravings, are you? Well, you're not alone. A lot of people are, and it's because of all the blue light stimulation after the sun goes down. Did you know that blue light can actually make you crave carbs after the sun goes down due to the stress from releasing cortisol? It's telling your brain this is noon, and yet we've already had a noon today. So release cortisol because we don't know why there's so much blue light now that the sun has gone down. So a really easy fix to help your body stave off those sugar cravings and feel more optimal is with blue light blocking glasses. Now I have the day blockers on to where when I'm on my computer during the day, I can block any excessive blue light that I don't need. The sun gives us the perfect amount of blue light, but sometimes our devices have excessive amounts, and that can lead to chronic sleepless nights, and it can lead to a little bit more cravings for sweets and carbohydrates than we're used to. Then after the sun goes down, I put on my amber or reddish orange colored blue light blocking glasses that tells my brain this is night. It's time to wind down, release melatonin, not have any cravings because we're getting close to bed. So just by getting your light right, you can actually get your cravings right. So I want you to go to Swanwick Sleep. The link is in the show notes, and you're going to use my code FITFOR10. That's FITFOR, the number 10, and save 10% off your purchase of blue light blocking glasses, either day or night, whatever it is that you need. But I highly recommend at least starting with the nighttime ones to end those sugar cravings or those little pesky, like I need to snicky snack at night cravings. They also have incredible anti-blue light bulbs for your home lights, as well as an anti-blue light night light. If you have children or you yourself like to have night lights in the house, this doesn't emit any blue light. It's dimmable. It can be brighter or dimmer. And it's wonderful to help children prevent myopia, because if children are exposed to blue light after the sun goes down at a very young age, they can start to develop the risk for myopia or nearsightedness. And there's published studies that show this. So make sure that you check out the link in the show notes and use my code FITFOR10 to save yourself 10% off of either the glasses or the bulbs or the blue anti-blue light night light, or all of the above, because in any world, when we get our light right, we're going to get our bodies right. Are you experiencing hair loss, hair thinning, hair shedding? What do all these have in common too? This is important to know. It could be your thyroid, or even a gut dysbiosis where you aren't absorbing your minerals and your vitamins. And so while you definitely need to address it from the inside first, and I'd love to help you with that too, as I specialize in thyroid issues, you can also start using a really great line of natural hair care products from a company that I love called Buffalo Gal. Now, while you always want to go to the gut first,
first, you can definitely have these products on hand because these are formulated with ingredients that actually work from the scalp level. And with things like MSM and hyaluronic acid, you're going to get results using products that actually have medicinal purposes in them at the topical level. So their MSM shampoo bar lathers so well when I use it, and it gives me body and versatility in my hair because I could go straight, I can go curly, but it also gives me a really clean scalp. And their hyaluronic conditioning bar, it detangles my hair, which my hair is really long and really thick, so it gets really tangly. It keeps my curls in place. And I can't say enough about their sea salt hairspray. It comes in a glass bottle. Oh my gosh, like what company makes a glass bottle hairspray? And it also gives you that kind of beachy, tousled sea salt in your hair look, which I love. They only use ingredients that are 100% safe, all natural, organic, centering around their artisanal, multi-species grass-fed tallow. They use a lot of this buffalo and beef tallow in their products, and every single ingredient has a specific and important healing role in their formulation. So I love that because while you definitely want to go at it from a gut level and a thyroid level, you also want to go at it topically with ingredients that actually do something in the scalp. So you can get yours at the link provided in the show notes with Buffalo Gal Grass Fed, and you're going to use my code JODELLE, JODELLE, to get 15% off your purchase of their shampoo bar, their conditioning bar, the sea salt spray. They've got skincare, really great products that I know you're going to love and your body's definitely going to benefit from.